Howdy folks, I'm Grotto Goblin of the Goblin's Grotto, and before we get started on today's Bones 6 news video, I need to address some really tragic news that happened recently. The president and CEO of Reaper, Ed Pugh, has passed away. This was a complete shock to me, and I'm sure many others. I can't imagine how the folks at Reaper feel about this. My heart goes out to them and to Ed's family. I never met Ed, but he seemed like a great person who was truly passionate about the creative venture which he devoted much of his life to. He played a big part in my life through the minis that we helped sell, the Kickstarters he helped create, and the many Reaper live streams that he was a part of. Ed is leaving behind a creative legacy that we can hold in the palms of our hands, which is an amazing thing. Further, his work will have helped create countless stories which will live on around our gaming tables and beyond. As they said in the memorial post, his shoes can never be filled, and he will be, irreplaceable and deeply missed. Ed, thank you for all you've done. We will all miss you, and I hope you rest well. Now, we do have some Bones 6 Kickstarter news today that is not related to Ed's passing. And I would like to share that with you, and I know that Ed would have been excited about sharing this news because he had been teasing this for a few weeks before we all found out. So, without further ado, let's get on to the news. First, the sculpting progress is getting pretty close to finished with what we have. The breakdown is pretty much the same as it was before. What's really left in the main group is the Scarab Folk and the Sand Dwarf from Lost Tombs of Akir and the Lighthouse Guard Tower conversion kit. Those are really seemingly the only core items from the campaign that still need work. As for everything else related to when the pledge manager is closing and all that, when shipping payments will need to be processed, we don't really have any movement on that, so I'm going to move on to what is really the big news that this update has to offer, and that's our first major round of power-ups. First and foremost, we have the Brightwind Pirates number 2. Now, the number 1 of this was actually included in the core set. These were meant to join them, but it just didn't make it in on time. Instead, you'll be able to pick these characters up for $10. Now that'll be $2.50 each, before tax and all that, of course. Unlike the previous pirates, these don't have assigned names. Instead, they're representatives of the 4 prevailing pirate clans of the Savage Coat? The Savage Coat. Well, anyway, you may recognize some of them, like the Sons of Barty. Those are some gross, nasty, undead pirate figures that really make my skin crawl. We saw a group of them back in Bones 5, and yeah. The other pirates here, also excellent. I'm a big fan of the Tiefling and the Mersaluth one in particular. I mean, they're all great. The Storm Chaser guy's really cool too. He has a lot of firearms, and I don't always put them into my fantasy settings, but the guy's like decked out in a ton of guns. It'd be kind of hard to use them in a setting where there are no guns. On the note of usage, the Mersaluth representative and the Wicked Hand don't really scream pirate only, so you could really use them in a number of settings. It's a pretty cool set, alright, but I have to say the next power-up we're going to be looking at is downright divine. You see what I did there? This is the Oops Angel that made it onto the wheel in a previous Reaper Live. I discussed that in the previous video, along with a second well-armored companion. This will be $12 for 2 minis. That's $6 each. A bit much at first, but if you take into account other minis of this scale sold by Reaper, WizKids, so forth, this is actually under what most of those would cost at retail. I'm really glad the Radiant Archon made it in, and the Vengeful Archon showing up is just icing on the cake. It's excellent, and you know, it makes that $12 a little more valuable, a little more worth your while. And finally, we have a pair of power-ups that, in my opinion, steal the show and money from my wallet. This is the Apprentice. It's a dragon diorama featuring a reading dragon and their humanoid friend. For $20, you can get it in a standard unpainted form, like pretty much everything else in this Kickstarter. But for just $20 more, they will send this to you pre-painted. That's a pretty solid price considering the cost of commission work. This is quite an interesting way to do this and totally unexpected. Not everyone has the time to paint big models, and this could be an excellent addition for those wanting a painted mini fresh out of the box. A couple of things about this mini though. The reading companion is meant to be removable, so that's a win if you just want to use a dragon or you want to repurpose that character there. And two, I can't really speak to Reaper's pre-painted lines. They have put out a Maldrakkar dragon mini, which is a little bit like a Tiamat mini, and they have a few other painted, pre-painted things that they've released, but I don't own any of them, so I've never held it in my hand. I've never had that first-hand account of what they look like and the quality there. But I know Reaper employs some talented painters, and they're pretty high on their quality, so I think it's pretty safe to say this will at least be up to the same level as other pre-painted miniature lines, if not a bit higher. That said, I like painting, so I will probably not be picking up the painted version. I'm going to be picking up the unpainted one for sure. I maybe might pick up the painted one, if for no other reason than to review on this channel and, of course, give it away as a gift, maybe to a friend of mine. And with that, that's all the news I have today. This Kickstarter is really ramping up in this last leg, and I really love all these new additions, but you know, the news that I had to share at the start of the video is just, you know, it's really tough to bear. It's not going to be the same without Ed, and you know, at this point in my videos I would usually talk about, you know, my socials and where to follow me, but I think he really deserves the focus here. You know, he worked really hard on this Kickstarter and, you know, all the ones before it. He's been pushing for getting add-ons and things in, and you know, he was a large part in all the work that was done here. He's leaving behind quite a legacy. It's gonna be different without him. If you can spare it, I encourage you to donate to your local animal shelters, as Ed was a big supporter of our furry, feathered, and scaly friends. And whether it's in his name, your own, anonymously, something that Ed would have appreciated, his family appreciates, and you know, the folks at Reaper and all the rest of his friends and all the folks that knew him. So with that, thank you, Ed, for all that you've done. You are missed. You will be missed. And to everyone else, thank you for watching. Thank you for following, supporting, and donating to animal shelters if you're able to do so. It's tough out there. It's crazy state of things. So hope you all take care. Have a good one. stay safe, take care of each other, and if you got him, let's go paint some minis. Rest well, Ed.